Welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Podcast. This is the podcast that adds value to leaders who multiply value to others. My name is Mark Cole, and today John Maxwell is going to teach you part 1 of 10 stages of a successful dream. Now, let me just tell you this. I can't wait to unpack this lesson with you this week as well as next week, because if I've watched John do anything, I've watched him not only successfully dream, but successfully accomplish that dream. So if that's you, you're looking for a dream or you have a dream, this 2-part series is going to be a must listen to over and over again. Now today, after John's lesson, Traci Morrow will join me to talk about helpful ways you can apply this lesson to your life, your dreams, and your leadership. If you'd like to watch this episode on YouTube, please go to maxwellpodcast.com/YouTube. And if you would like to download the free worksheet that accompanies John's lesson, visit maxwellpodcast.com/stages and click the bonus resource button. Now that's it. Pull your dream out, blow the dust off of it, open your mind, let's dream together. Here is John Maxwell.
There are 3 big dreams that I've had for a long time that all 3 were fulfilled this year. I've got a lot of dreams that haven't been fulfilled. I'm still dreaming. But there were 3 real big dreams that were fulfilled. And so one day I was spending some time thanking God for these dreams that were fulfilled and reflecting on them. Every one of you in this room have a dream. You have a dream to excel. You have a dream to have a certain amount of success. You may have a dream for your family, but we all have dreams. But as I thought of these 3 dreams, I thought of the stages that I went through. Winifred Newman said, "Vision is the world's most desperate need. There are no hopeless situations, only people who think hopelessly." So, 10 stages of a successful dream. Number 1. The first stage is what I call the I thought it stage. The I thought it stage. In other words, this is where I dream it. This is the birth of the dream. This is where you got the thought. Helen Keller said, "One can never consent to creep when one feels the impulse to soar." All dreams begin with the I thought it. It's the eureka. Oh my goodness, this is an idea. Oh, wow, I just thought of something. Stage 1 of a successful dream, I thought it. Stage 2 of a successful dream, I caught it. This is where we go beyond thinking about something we could accomplish. This goes to the feeling. Now all of a sudden, I'm beginning to feel the dream. I'm beginning to feel what it's going to be like. Henry David Thoreau, what did he say? "If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with success unexpected in those common hours." Now, let's just talk about this for a moment. This is the emotion of the dream. Every one of you know what I'm talking about, where you think about a good idea. You got an idea and you think about it, you say, "Man, I think that will work." But do you remember when your emotion caught up with your thoughts and all of a sudden you began to get excited about it? And now all of a sudden, that's all you can think about, and it's starting to carry you emotionally. This is part of the forming of a dream that is very, very important. It's what I call the I caught it stage. I thought it. I caught it. You ready for stage 3? Here we go. I bought it. This is where I buy into the dream. This is where I take the dream and I say, okay, I'm going to buy into it. Like Hubert Humphrey. This is a great illustration. Many of you are young, you don't remember Hubert Humphrey, but I love this. 1935, his first trip to Washington, D.C. Here's a letter he wrote to his wife. "Honey, I can see how someday if you and I just apply ourselves and make up our minds to work for bigger and better things, we can someday live here in Washington, D.C. and probably be in government, politics, or service. Oh, gosh, I hope my dream comes true. I'm going to try anyhow. Hubert H. Humphrey." Do you know what happened to him that day? He bought into the dream. That was the day he said, "This dream is good enough for me to buy into it." It's the I bought it stage where all of a sudden you say, "This will work." Are you getting the flow of this? I thought it, I caught it, I bought it. Point number 4, a few shot it. This talks about the fragileness of the dream. In fact, I put in your notes, opposition is often the proof of progress. Are you with me? When I do the 21 Laws leadership lecture, one of the laws is the law of navigation. The law of navigation says anyone can steer a ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. And when I teach the law of navigation, I teach how to plan ahead, predetermine your course of action, lay out your goals, allow time for acceptance. And what's interesting is, as soon as you head into action, you can expect problems. People say, why is it that every time you make a move, that's when the problems come? It's very simple. Motion causes friction. As long as you talk about change, there ain't anybody going to be mad at it. You don't sit and drink tea and talk about change till the end comes. But it's when you move the train out. They either got to get on or get off. That's when the issues always rise. When you have a dream, there's somebody going to shoot at it. In your notes, this is the moment that the dream is in most danger. Why? For 3 reasons. Number 1, it's new to you. The very fact that the dream is new to you makes it very vulnerable when people shoot at it. Isn't that true? You see, if people shoot on something in my life that I've had for years and I've tried it and I've proven it, you can shoot at all you want to. It doesn't bother me because I can look at it and say, I've already been there, done that. When it's new and you haven't tried it yet and people shoot at it, it has a tendency to take us back. The second reason, what I call the dangerous moment of the dream, is that your friends are the first to know. So therefore, they are the first to shoot at it. Not because they're trying to be unfriendly or nasty. It's just the fact, who do you tell the dream to the first? You tell the dream to the people that are closest to you. So when the people closest to you know the dream first, and if they don't agree with the dream and they shoot at it, it hurts you the most because those are the ones that you want to buy into it the most. And number 3, you lack a track record. Therefore, you lack confidence. When you and I lack a track record, then we lack confidence. My good friend Bob Beal says that dreams are like soap bubbles floating in the air, close to jagged rocks on a windy day. Watch out for the experts. Sometimes they intimidate us, but just watch out for them. How we doing? I thought it, I caught it, I bought it, a few shot it. Number 5, I sought it. This is the desire. This is the hunger. This is the work stage. This is where you want it so bad you'll do anything that you can do to get it. That's why I love that quote of Leroy Iams who said, never let go of a dream until you're ready to wake up and make it happen. Vision gives us a picture and answers the question, what? Mission gives us a purpose and answers the question, why? Strategy gives us the plan and answers the questions, how? And the Italian proverb, between saying and doing, many pairs of shoes are worn out. Now, this stage of the dream will only be realized if we possess, are you ready? The passion and pay the price. The passion we possess provides the energy for the dream. The price we pay determines the success of the dream. Passion gives you the energy. Price determines the success.
Leaders, you know better than anyone that growth is essential if you want to make tomorrow better than today. But fitting growth into your calendar takes intentionality and self-discipline. So, let Maxwell Leadership help make your growth achievable. You're invited to join thousands of worldwide leaders in using the Maxwell Leadership Growth Plan. The Maxwell Leadership Growth Plan provides you with convenient and easy to implement leadership resources, including video lessons from John Maxwell, all at your fingertips. Available in our Maxwell Leadership app or online, you'll be coached by many well-known leadership experts that will help you achieve your growth goals. You can even listen to this podcast right there in the app. Check it out for free today at growth.maxwellleadership.com. That's growth.maxwellleadership.com.
Hey, welcome back. I'm so glad to have you, our YouTube audience. Thank you for joining us today. We're so glad that you're here. And Tracy, thank you for being in studio with me via Zoom. I like it when you're here, but I'll take it. You know, Tracy, when I heard that lesson as John was teaching, I was reminded of Alexander Graham Bell's quote. He said, "When one door closes, another opens. But we often look so long and so regretfully upon the closed door that we do not see the one that is opened up before us." And I love this lesson. I mean, story after story, observation after observation of watching John Maxwell, and even in my own life, watching a dream unfold began to kind of fill my mind. So I'm really excited about going through this with you today, Tracy.
I am as well. I love being here and processing through the action steps. And I feel like this lesson is unique because John is so great at taking a lesson and then fleshing it out with stories. But so far in these first 5, he's really just given us the lesson, but hasn't really given us a lot of story to it. Yeah. And I feel like that's the part we get to add today. And I feel like the timing for that, this kind of a lesson is so perfect at being a dream and where you're at in your leadership journey and fleshing out John's vision and your dream and John's dream and what that looks like moving forward for Maxwell leadership. And so I thought maybe it would be a good place if you want to go there, if you have a different place to take it. But I just thought, first of all, you have a big dream right now that you're fleshing out and you're plugging these steps into. And so what right now is the dream that you're chasing, that you're going through these stages with?
Yeah. And, you know, to kind of give that story and give some context to it, I can remember John making a statement, Tracy, you've probably heard this story. He's told this story on the podcast before of he knew as a 24, 25-year young man, he knew that he was going to commit his life to leadership. In fact, it was speaking to a large audience. He gets in the car with his wife, Margaret. He says, "Margaret, I believe that I am supposed to become an expert, a spokesman, a thought leader on the idea of leadership." And his wife, Margaret, said, "Wow, that's really good. What are you going to do with that?" And he said, "Nothing. If it's truly from God, if it's truly my dream, it will begin to work itself into my life. Opportunities will come." 2 weeks later, he got his first invitation to come speak on the topic of leadership. The reason I say that is because I think at the onset of this podcast, the first challenge that I would have of any and everybody on here, do you know the difference of your dream and your wish? Do you know the things that you're wishing for compared to the things that you're dreaming for? See, I believe a wish is something that would be nice if it happened, something that, wow, wouldn't that make life better? Wouldn't that be really cool? But a dream is something that you don't shake. It's something that you have it a couple of nights in a row. It's something that when you do have it, you know it's not going to be based on what you do. It's going to be based on how available you are and how willing you are to do what you need to do when the time is right. I believe that's what a dream is.
Yeah.
I can remember, Tracy, early on in my career here with John, 23 years and counting. And I remember they challenged me. You've heard me tell the story on the podcast, no doubt. They challenged me to do this year-end review thing. Go think about what you did last year and compare it with what you would like to accomplish the following year. And I went and did this. Little did I know, 23 years later, I've now done 21 of these in a row. And I heard this and I went away and I did an 8-hour retreat one day. And in that 8 hours, I got really challenged. So the next year I went overnight, and it was in that third year of working with John, my second year of doing a year-end review, that I began to dream. And I'll tell you what I dreamed. I dreamed that I would sit at the table with people like John Maxwell, making decisions that would impact millions of people in one board meeting, in one meeting. That was my dream. Now, I can remember, I put that on a piece of paper. I could show it. If I had it with me today, I would show it to those of you watching via YouTube. And I'd say, this is it, pinned at the end of 2002, December. And I would show you this really cryptic way of saying, because I never dreamed that I would be co-owner with John. I never dreamed that I'd be a CEO, but I did dream that I wanted to sit at the table with people like John and make global shaping decisions. Tracy, that dream that I thought at a year-end review in 2002, it became something that I caught the more I thought about it. It became something I bought into. And I can tell you, just for this week, I'm not cheating and going ahead and telling you what we're going to do next week, but just this week, I can tell you it was the catching, it was the thinking, it was the buying of that dream that brought it to pass. It wasn't a wish. I didn't sit there as a telesalesperson and say, I wish I could be CEO. It feels so frivolous. But I began to imagine what it would be like to sit at the table and make decisions. And today, Tracy, just this week, since our last podcast, just this week, I've sat at the table literally and talked about initiatives that, if done effectively in a matter of 45 days, can impact 1 million people around the globe. And I go, wow, that all started with a dream that I caught way back earlier, 23 years ago.
That's so exciting to hear. And I'm certain that there are people who are listening to the podcast who have a dream in their heart. When you started out, before John spoke, you said, dust off your dream. And I'm certain that there are people who cautiously, maybe optimistically, dusted off their dream a little bit and are taking a few steps down this, what I might call like a 10-stage recipe, maybe, to finding the success of a dream. But do you have any, before we get to, buying in, those first couple of steps of, I thought it, I dreamt it, and I delighted in it, I caught it. I think a lot of people get stuck in those two. And I love how John is teaching this lesson, because it shows us a lot of people feel, in the people that I've coached, the people that I've worked with on my teams, feel like they're the oddball. Is it just me? That I have this feeling inside of me? Is there something different about me? Am I crazy? Is it just me? So I love that he's saying, no, this is more common than you would think, number one. But do you have any anchoring questions, anchoring to reality, maybe, to see if it's worth the buy-in? Like when you said, oh, that's frivolous to think I don't want to be a CEO, but you are a CEO, so it wasn't that frivolous. So what are the anchoring questions that someone who has a dream in their heart, that they are dreaming it, they're a little bit delighting in it, and they're deciding whether or not that they should buy into it? What are maybe some questions they might ask themselves to decide whether they should buy into it, whether it's reality?
Yeah, I love this question because, again, dreamers, all of you dreamers out there, I'm going to give you permission today to dream. Don't wish, because wish is not going to get you very far, but dreaming is going to get you well beyond where you thought you would go. I promise you, a dream properly chased will lead you further than the dream reveals. Catch it. A dream properly chased will take you further than the dream was originally thought. You will get more than you bargained for in a good way. Now, what I mean by that is, I think before you buy it, I think it's very important. Often people buy into a wish. They buy into a hope. But when you buy into a dream, the cost doesn't matter. The sidestep doesn't matter, because you bet on yourself and you went after something. So I think the ticket to what John's given us today, the important part that John gave us today, is all in the catching. It's all in the letting it settle within you. I know for me, in what I shared with you, what was my dream, I began thinking like a CEO as a telesales entry-level representative. I began wondering, what would John Maxwell want to know about my activity, about my events that I own? And when I would get on trips with him, I would prepare for him things that I would want to know if I was a CEO. What's people saying? How's the event doing? What's the return on the investment of time? How many people saying yes? How many people saying no? I began to think in a way that would have put me in a position before I ever got the position. And often too many people that are not dreaming or wishing, they're more surprised at the promotion than than they are if they would have won $1 million, because they hope for it, but they didn't plan and prep for it. But a person that's driven by a dream, they've already been living in that role, in that opportunity before they ever got there. And I think that comes forward too when you catch it, now you're ready to buy it. I know for me, I gave up a lot. I took more promotions with less money than anybody I knew. I never negotiated money because it never was about the money. It was about the opportunity to influence. And often when you assume a new role to influence, you have to give up in other areas. And so I literally I've had 10 promotions, if you will, within John's organization. 4 of those were with significant double-digit decreases in my existing pay. You have to give up to go up. Well, you know what that means? I bought the dream more than I wanted the benefit of the dream. And too often we're chasing dreams based on what the benefit is rather than what the purchase price is. We want to know what we get rather than what we have to give to get it. And I'm just going to tell you, the buying question, if I decide to do it, what John's talking about, all comes back to this. Did you really catch the dream, or did you just think the dream would be pretty cool? When you catch it, it becomes quite simple. Not easy, but it becomes quite simple to pay the price.
So I'm hearing you say in that step, it's asking yourself, what you did was you asked yourself the questions to do what John calls getting on top of the heat, setting yourself apart by going the extra mile, doing the extra thing, not asking to necessarily be compensated financially at that point, but just getting on top of the heat, setting yourself apart so that you are a standout, so that you can continue to rise and grow into that dream that you have as you're buying in, because you're buying in with your time, you're buying in with your gifts. Okay, so that's got, somebody needed to hear that, I'm sure, because you have that vision and you're like, what's the next step? The next step is not waiting to be, am I getting financially compensated for this? Waiting to be called into it. Sometimes it's being assertive. It's seeing more, doing more before you're asked, and stepping out and serving and adding value. So it's all in line with what John always teaches. And then the next step is a few shot at it, others disturb it. And so you'll see that in your notes. And so I'm just curious, I've got a few questions there, but have you had, clearly I know that you have had people shoot down your ideas and tell you you can't get to where you're at in your career, where you haven't had people shoot you down. But have you had people who have been close to you, Mark, like people from your inner circle, your trusted circle, shoot you down or your ideas down as you're chasing after your dream? And how do you discern between criticism and discerning counsel?
Yeah. So I think for me, and I have to really work with my inner circle on this, I don't mind people telling me the cost of the dream. I don't mind people telling me the risk of a decision. What I do challenge people in my inner circle is, before you come and tell me it's not possible, make sure you know what you know, because if I believe it's a dream and I am chasing for it, I don't want people around me that won't establish hope for me. Now, for instance, I've got an inner circle member that they always come to me and say, hey, you can do this, but let me tell you what you're going to have to give up to get there. Let me tell you the personal challenges you're going to have if you continue chasing this. But it's never, you don't need to chase that. It's going to cost too much. You don't want to do that. That's not going to be good when you get there. When you come to me and make me doubt what I feel in my heart, rather than let me count the cost of what it means to chase what's in my heart, now you've become a good inner circle. And I'm just going to tell you, negative criticism that tries to talk me out of a dream loses credibility with me quick. But a person that comes to me and loves me enough to help me count the cost of chasing the dream, they become very important to me. That's how I determine the criticism. Is it people that's telling me it's not possible, or people that's reminding me how costly it's going to be to achieve it? That to me is the difference. So when I look at this, I have had people very, very close to me. I mean, like if parents are close to you, that would be pretty close, right? Or
Right.
I've had very significant people in my life cause great questioning to happen of me and my ability to rebound or become something of myself. But I'll tell you one of the greatest examples of this, Tracy, and you're there, you're a board member for our foundation, was when John caught a dream of a transformed country, of a country that could be transformed. And I watched people very, very close to John begin to shoot at it. What's transformation mean? You can't define transformation. You can't quantify transformation. A whole country, man, we need to keep doing what we were doing yesterday because it's very successful. I watched John, one of the most impacting, perhaps bonding times we've ever had. We were in the country of Guatemala. John had just cast the vision. We had captured the imagination of the people in that nation, only to get back to some very, very close people to John and have them tell him how wrong it was, how abandoning what was already success, and how they didn't want to take another step with him in that direction. And John, very few times, John leaned over on my shoulder in his hotel room in Guatemala and just sobbed and said, I can't give it up, Mark. I see more and before. I've caught the dream and I've experienced it. Now, John, at that time, gang, he felt like that he was going to point, he was going to point the organization and point the team toward the dream, but that he would never see in his lifespan a transformed country off of the values of leadership that he teaches. He thought that he was just giving a focus and raising and creating resources that we could get there one day. It wasn't until we just had our 10-year anniversary in Guatemala. It wasn't until about year 8 that John went, I'm going to start seeing this in my lifespan. See, sometimes the dream is more important than your lifespan. Sometimes the dream is more important than your participation in the reality of the dream. The dream's that much bigger. And so, Tracy, even right now, I mean, I've got leadership challenges. All God's children got leadership challenges. I got a few of my own. And I guarantee you, some of you listen to this podcast, you've got leadership challenges. You are making very, very difficult decisions. I hope and pray for you that it's the same as it is for me. And that is, these decisions become much easier when I am realizing that I'm making the decisions for the effectiveness of the dream, not the effectiveness of me. I'm just the dreamer. I'm just the one that's a steward of the dream that I am pursuing. I'm not the recipient. I'm not the benefactor. I'm not the person who matters most in the story. All of that is reserved for other people. And when you get a dream that is much bigger than you, it becomes easier in the difficult times to remove yourself from the personal impact of the difficulty, so that the dream and the purpose and the benefit of to others stays first and foremost in all of your decision making.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's the focus on the journey, not necessarily on the destination. The dream is the destination, but there are so many examples of people who had a dream that they were going after. And like John, when he started out with transformation of a country, never imagining that he would see it. But he was so impassioned for that dream that he focused so much entirely on the journey, which point number 5, and we can close out. But I have one more question for you, and you can maybe close on this. But he talked about when he sought it, part of that, the anchoring pieces of the dream are needing to have a vision, a mission, and a strategy. And when you're so closely connected to those, because sometimes we can have this like pie in the sky idea or ideal, but they don't really have a vision, a mission, and a strategy. And so those are kind of the anchoring pieces that I think are important to have that fuel your passion and your energy and the success. But it kind of makes me wonder, I'm sure seeing John have that upset moment was encouraging for you to see that even John gets upset. That encourages me because I feel like, that encourages me to keep on keeping on when I hear even John sees that kind of opposition and someone at his level of success. And he keeps pushing through because he's so deeply connected to the reasons and the purposing of his passion and his dream. But how do you learn I mean, I'm sure having proximity to John, but how do you learn how to trust your gut with your dream? Before you have a track record, because you do have a track record, but you're also growing in your leadership and building that track record. How do you, Mark Cole, learn how to trust your gut in this process of everything's new to you in the passing of the baton?
Yeah, I've found that for me, this is not for everybody, but I think it'll apply to a lot of us. For me, the true, authentic, life-shaping, life-extending dreams that I have is always about others. I want success. I love success. I love nice things in life and privileges and all of that. But I got to tell you, the dreams that I have always do a litmus test of authenticity when I can make sure that the dream is about the benefit and the impact to others. Now, again, not everybody listening to this. This is a leadership. This is a personal growth. This is a leadership development podcast. And many of you are listening to become better. You want to be better. But when we're talking about dreams, I have found that the bigger the dream, the more it's about others and the more it's going to take people to go with you. And it's not just on your shoulders. So the first thing that I would tell you is, Tracy, I always do the litmus test when I'm struggling to ask myself the question of the legitimacy or the longevity of a dream is, have I made this about me? Is this just about my success, my accomplishment? Because a good dream that benefits you is only going to be a great dream when the benefit flows through you.
Yeah.
And our responsibility in my first litmus test, when I'm struggling with a dream or a particularly difficult time that I've had, as we've all had in chasing a dream, is, have I all of a sudden made this dream about me, about my success, about my comfort, about my recognition? And oftentimes the struggle is more about my challenges than it is about the legitimacy of the dream.
Yeah.
The second question that I have to ask all the time is the dream worth the price again? In other words, oftentimes we dream big, we'll pay the price once, but when it doesn't work out, we give up on it. So I ask myself the question all the time, is my dream worth paying the price again?
So good.
Am I willing to get out there and go after it again? And then the third question that I always ask now, Tracy, you gave some great stuff about vision and purpose, and it all needs to be seated and rooted in that. This third question all comes back to my why, my sense of fulfillment. And I have found that oftentimes I re-engage with my dream when I realize that my sense of fulfillment is off just a little bit. That I'm chasing the wrong dream, or I've become distracted, or I've made the dream about me, and I've lost a little bit of my luster, not because the dream wasn't legitimate, but because the dream had not been polished off. I had not been reminded of the significance of what a dream fulfilled would be. And so today, as we kind of close it out, and I'm asking you the question, as John is, are you still seeking your dream? Did you tune in today maybe to get a leadership nugget, and all of a sudden you've been awakened to the fact that you kind of put your dream on a shelf? Well, number one, I'm going to challenge you to come back next week, because we got 5 more components of making sure that your dream is a successful dream, that you accomplish it. So come back next week. But the second thing that I'd challenge you to do is go back and listen to this podcast. Now that you know where we're going, I want you to go back and I want you to ask yourself the question, did I really think of this dream, or did somebody else think it for me? Was it my dream, or was it my parents' dream? I know I spent the first long period of my life pursuing my parents' dream for me, not my dream. And some of you have not reconciled that you're not chasing your dream, you're chasing somebody else's dream for you. Have you caught the dream? Is it deep within you, or is it still just a nice euphoric thought? Number 3, have you bought it? Are you willing to buy it again today? Is it time to take it off the shelf, blow the dust off of it, pull out the credit card, pull out the checkbook, and let's go buy it again? Maybe some of you are getting shot at. You're going, man, I thought it was just me. No, it's not you. It's the deadbeats that we all surround ourselves with. And yes, I called them a deadbeat. If they're shooting at your dream and not lifting your dream, they're on the wrong elevator, not you. Get them off your elevator. You're going up. They're trying to pull you down. And then finally, are you seeking it? And that's where I'll end today. I just end with this concept, this idea, this challenge, to be honest with you. Are you seeking the dream with the diligence, with the determination, with the certainty that you know you should have? You can do it. I believe you can. And we're partnering with you. In fact, join us next week. Tracy and I'll be right back here, ready to train and talk and share a little bit more from John's teaching. Hey, I just want to challenge you. I want you to listen to all of our podcasts. We have a family of podcasts, and we have an executive podcast. We have a corporate competitor. We have several ways for you to grow and pursue your dreams. So you can go to maxwellleadership.com/podcast. You'll see a family of our podcasts there. And I want to close today with a listener comment. And this comes from Jimmy. Jimmy feels about John Maxwell the way that Tracy and I do. Jimmy, you're my man, dude. We're brothers. He listened to the recent podcast on the 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. It's a new book that John just released. In fact, for all of you YouTube viewers, I'm holding it up. We'll give you a discount for this, Jake. Let's give them a 15% discount if they go to the show notes. We'll have it there. Use the code podcast and you'll be able to get that discount. But Jimmy said, I was listening to this podcast John's doing about the 16 laws of communication. I had to pull off the road to take notes. I've met John a couple of times, even had lunch with him once. John's been a mentor to me, Jimmy said, through the seminars, books, sermons, Enjoy Life Club. Now, that is something, Jimmy, that lets me and you know we're a little older than some of our audience. And now the podcast. And Jimmy said this, Tracy. He said, John consistently adds value to my life, which is multiplied into the lives of others. And Jimmy, that's a mic drop for us because that's what we do. That's why we do it. That's how we open our podcast up, is to add value to you so you'll multiply value to others. And the reason we do that is because everyone deserves to be led well. We'll talk to you again next week.